Hi, I'm Josh Walters from Windy Cape Studios. Welcome to the International Association of Woodcarvers.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the International Association of Woodcarvers. Today is Saturday, July the 20th, 2024. We appreciate you all coming in and joining us today. Again, we're in our summer series, so it's been a little while since we've all gotten together. Appreciate you all watching social media and seeing that we're meeting again today. Today we have on Joshua Walters of Windy Cape Studios. He's been on with us before. We'll talk a little bit about his process making candlestick holders using a lathe. So it's going to be something a little different than what we've seen before. So I'm sure everybody's excited to hear about that. Before we get started, I'll tell you a little bit about some things coming up. Our next meeting is going to be August the 10th with Mike Bloomquist. He's going to be coming on and showing us something a little different too. He makes automated carvings move with cranks and things. So he's going to come in and talk to us about that. Want to remind you about some workshops. August the 5th, Janet Cordell has a horse jumping a fence workshop. Dave Stetson, who's on with us today, has a Santa class starting August the 17th. Dwayne Gosnell is going to be doing some caricature carving classes August the 6th and August the 20th. As I've said always in the past, make sure you reach out to these instructors to sign up, find out what the requirements are. If there's a rough out, you'll need to go ahead and order that. If there's a pattern cut out, you'll have time to cut that out before the class starts. So again, Janet Cordell, August the 5th, Dave Stetson, August the 17th. Dwayne Gosnell has two classes, one August the 6th and one August the 20th. So if you get a chance, try to get signed up for some of these classes. Again, these online classes, you see everything that the instructor's doing. You get a recorded version of it so you can go back and rewatch that. It's well worth the money to be able to see all the cuts and things that are made, ask questions, get those answered, and see the whole process. So make sure you try to participate in those. Remind you about some of the events that are coming up. I always talk about the Carving the Rocky show. That's coming up pretty quick, September 14th and 15th out in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And then there's going to be a School of Caricature Carving on the 16th or the 18th. You can go out on the CCA website and check out all the events that are coming up. I'm not going to cover all those with you today. I'll be doing some advertising for that as well, so watch social media. There's going to be a lot of fun new things that are going on. So if you see that out there, again, make sure you check out the CCA website and you can get all the details there. There's a Converse, Indiana seminar that CCA is doing. Rich Weatherby, Floyd Radigan, and Kevin Applegate will be teaching there. That's August the 16th through the 18th. If you're interested in participating in that and you're in the area, go out on Eventbrite and look for CCA Caricature Carving Seminar 2024 Converse. So again, it's in Converse, Indiana. Again, if you're interested in that, go out, check that out. Or you can contact Kevin Applegate. He can give you all the information as far as that goes. And then there's also a gathering of woodcarvers that's going on in Yorkville, Illinois, October the 11th through the 13th. Vic Hood's going to be there, Dylan Goodson, Roger Stegall, Joshua Walters, which is on here with us today, and Mary McDowell. So that's going to be a great event also. Again, if you're anywhere close to Yorkville, Illinois, you need to try to get signed up for that. Joshua can tell us a little bit more about that as we get started with him. Today, I want to remind you, we're going to be doing a live auction in the meeting, in the chat, the same way we always do. All the proceeds go to allow us to continue these meetings. So again, we continue to pay for the Zoom subscription every month. We've done that for almost 5 years now. All the proceeds that we collect go towards paying that subscription. Even if we only have one meeting a month, we have to pay for the whole subscription. So we're doing a fundraiser. This fundraiser is going to be two items. One's going to be an autographed Floyd Radigan Helvey Signature Series knife. Floyd signed this out at the CCA show in Colorado Springs last September, and it was donated by Helvey. Floyd signed it. It's his signature knife. So that's going to be part of the raffle. And then Joshua Walters of Windy Cape Studios has donated one of his large tool totes. I've got it here. And it's also going to be part of the raffle. So you'll get both of these items. The highest bid will win both items. And we'll take bids throughout the meeting. At the end of the meeting, I'll call the auction and the highest bidder will win. So if you're interested in those things, again, all proceeds go to help the International Association of Woodcarvers. And it really allows us to continue to having these meetings. So if you want to, go ahead and start putting your bids in the chat for that, and we'll call that at the end of the meeting. Before we get to Joshua, as always, we're going to have Dave Stetson come on. He's going to share some words of wisdom for us before we get started, and then we'll turn it over to Joshua. So Dave, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Blake. I found a quote that I thought would be good to share with everyone. And it says, one can choose to go back toward safety or forward toward growth. And this was attributed to Abraham Maslow, and I'd never heard of him before. So I found out that he was a psychologist. And he's got a whole thing about, it's a good guy to Google, learn a little bit more about him. But he says, growth can be chosen again and again. Fear must be overcome again and again. But you can choose to go back toward safety or forward toward growth. And as an artist, as a creative person, that kind of says a lot. So having said all that, I'm going to turn it back over to Blake.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you wearing that shirt in support of the International Association of Woodcarvers. So having said all of that, today we have on Joshua Walters. He's coming to us live from Pennsylvania. He's one of the owners of Windy Cape Studios. Again, he donated the large tool tote that he makes and sells on his website for our auction today. So again, those proceeds go to allow us to keep having these meetings. Joshua's going to talk to us about using other tools in your shop to help contribute to the wood carvings that you do. He's going to tell a little bit about his business and things. So Joshua, I appreciate you coming on again today and sharing with us. Look forward to hearing what you have to offer to us.
All right, thank you, Blake. I got this idea a number of years ago to carve a candle because somebody else was doing it and they were posting it on Facebook, and I thought it was neat. And I asked them for some photo references and patterns, and I kind of went from there and got a lot of tools because I have tool acquisition syndrome. So the first candle that I did, actually, Dave, you want to switch over to the phone so that I can show these carvings? So this was the first one that I did, and I just did him like this. And, you know, he doesn't stand too well on his own. He's an okay carving. I did this, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago. Got a little piece of metal here that holds the flame in place, but definitely a candle. So I also had a lathe. So I turned a candle holder for it, and I created a tenon and a mortise to put the candle in. And I showed this off, and a number of people thought that it was pretty cool. And somebody pointed out to me that candles don't ever stand straight, even in a candle holder. So I handed this off to a relative who enjoyed it for a number of years, and I borrowed it back for today. I had this idea of getting more movement and motion into the caricature. So I came up with this guy. And for whatever reason, I thought that it might be an interesting experiment to see if I could do him out of one piece of wood. So this guy is done completely out of one piece of wood. And the way that it's done, I'll explain. It'll be towards the end of the presentation. But just to make a long story short, I cut out the pattern at the top on a bandsaw, and then I actually chuck them up in the lathe and I turn the candle holder. And I still go ahead and hand carve because I want that hand carved texture. So I'm going to carve all around this, but I'm using the lathe basically the same way that we use the bandsaw to create your blank by removing as much material as possible before you actually go to hand tools. So since then, it's kind of taken off. I'm doing other patterns. One of the things that this original one had, I didn't have a way of bringing the wax over top of the candle holder, which quite often happens. So with this one, I changed the configuration. So now I've got the tenon here instead of being on the candle, and the mortise is in the bottom of the candle. And that allows me to carve it so that the wax can actually drip down the candle holder, which makes it a little bit more realistic. As far as other experiments that I've done, one of the great things about candles is any color combination. I mean, you almost can't screw up your paint job on these. You just got to make the eyes and the face look realistic, and the sky's the limit on the color choices that you do. So another experiment that I did was I tried an actual candle wick. Now this is a candle wick that you could get at Hobby Lobby, and it has metal in it, so it'll bend, and it bends back and kind of holds its shape. And what I did to sort of strengthen this was I put CA glue on it. Now, if you do that, don't put CA glue on it and leave the room because it will start to smoke. But I'll put a couple of coats of CA glue on it, and then it makes a realistic, because it is actually a candle wick, makes a realistic candle wick for the carving. And then that's how I attach the flame to it. And then I also came up with, I'm teaching a class at Raintree Woodcarvers this fall, and we're going to be doing these candles. So anybody out there watching this, you're going to find out today how I make the blanks that we'll be using in that class. I won't be demonstrating that during that class because we only have 2 days. But I also came up with another pattern just for Halloween's, just sort of a spooky one. And I don't use the lathe for this. This is just a 1.5 inch or 1 3/4 inch square block by about 5 inches, and then put the flame up top. So before we get into how this is done, I wanted to show everyone a couple of things on the lathe for anybody who's not familiar with the lathe. So I'm going to hand the phone off to my wife. Okay, can you guys hear me over here?
Yeah, you're good, Josh.
Okay, so this is my lathe. You do not need a lathe this big to do anything related to carving, even making bases. I had a smaller lathe, and a friend of mine needed to downgrade. And we were starting our business where we make bases, and the idea of having a larger lathe where I can turn larger bases was nice. So we did a trade, and obviously I had to give him a little extra since I had a smaller lathe. But this lathe is completely overkill for what I'm talking about today. You can get away with a mini lathe or a midi lathe easily. Some things about the lathe that I'll be talking about. This is the tailstock. This slides along the bedways. These are called the bedways. And this comes up to support your material. Actually, let me just grab a piece and throw it in here. So this slides in here up against your material to support it. And this will be very important for this project. This is your tool rest. This is called the banjo. And then obviously this is the motor which drives everything. As far as tools that I use, these are the tools that I use for this project. So I have a couple of lathe chucks. And this is called a screw chuck because it has a screw on the end. And basically you just thread your piece of wood into that. You'll see that in the video. And then this is a lathe chuck with a set of jaws on it, and the jaws are interchangeable. I happen to have two chucks, so I have jaws set up. These are long nose jaws, and these are just regular jaws. And I'll explain why I use those sometimes, but other times you have to use these. This is a center finder. Center finders are really nice to have in the shop. I'll explain why there's wrenches. And then I just have an assortment of spindle gouges, a skew gouge, and then these are easy wood tools. They're just the square end ones. And I just wanted to show you these first before I run the videos. Okay, so I think we're ready to go to the videos. So we could switch back to the computer, Dave. And anybody has any questions, chime in at any point in time. All right. So first thing that I want to say about wood turning. I'm not trying to teach people how to wood turn today. I'm just showing you a process that I use to create a blank for carving. If you've never wood turned, I would suggest that you get with somebody who has wood turned and get some instruction from them. And I just realized I'm not sharing my screen, am I?
Not yet. There you go.
There we go. I do this like 6 times a week. You'd think I'd know how to do this. All right, so I'm not trying to teach people how to wood turn here. I'm just showing you a process that I created an interesting carving blank from. And so you want to find somebody who'll give you some instruction on how to use the lathe, what tools to use, and always practice, safe wood turning. Use a face shield and a respirator. Even if I'm turning a pen or a pencil, I'll still use a face shield. I've had stuff come off of the lathe, and when it comes off of the lathe, usually flies right for your face. So always be safe when you're doing it. I don't find the lathe to be particularly dangerous for the stuff that I do. I'm not turning really large things, but it's like any other tool in the shop. It can be dangerous. The other thing is that if you don't have a lathe, don't go running out and buying one just because I'm showing you this process. I'm really trying to get people to think about how you can use other tools in your shop besides just the bandsaw and then your carving tools to create your blank. So here are some of the wood carving uses of the lathe. Obviously, you can make bases, and that's where a lot of the people that I know that carve who also have wood lathes, they typically make their own bases, and a lot of them also make pens and pencils. They may also be wood turners who happen to carve, but so obviously you can do bases, the flat round style, and you could do cylindrical pedestals, and there's other forms that you can do. So a lot of times with if you do a lot of wood turning, you might turn something like a vase and then you might actually carve it. So you're getting to a rough form and then transforming it from there. And that's actually kind of where I got the idea for this. So this isn't an original idea by any stretch of the imagination. So some carved turn forms that are useful to wood carvers, bowls, vases, plates, eggs. So if you have your own wood lathe, you can obviously make your own of any of these. The bowls, the vases and plates and the eggs are very popular with chip carvers. If you're a wood turner who also likes to wood carve, there's some crossover there. And there's really just too many different types of techniques to talk about. And then the final thing that I'm introducing today is the caricature blank, which is the candlestick holder. I'm also playing around with matchstick. Blake gave me this idea the other night. You know, how can you make a matchstick with a face on it? And one of the things that I like about using the lathe, if you are okay with assembling your carving using multiple pieces, what you can do is you can choose how you assemble those, and you can use the least amount of wood possible. So in the case of like a matchstick, if you have a flame at the top of it, there's a lot of wood that you would waste. If you started with say a 2-inch square block of wood, that flame's going to be wider than the matchstick all the way around, so you're going to be wasting a lot of wood. So you can go to the bandsaw and you can cut that out, which I have no problems with. Or you could try turning an egg shape to carve the flames out of and use that mortise and tenon joint that I'm using with the candlestick holders, and actually use just a rectangular blank for the stick of the match, and then you use the egg shape to carve the flames out of and attach the two. So the blanks that I'm using, you'll see these on the right, and these are different progressions. So in the picture on the far left is you go to the bandsaw and you cut it out like any other blank you would do. And these are 4-inch by 4-inch blanks by about 10 or 11 inches tall. And I will quite frequently leave extra room at the bottom of the blank to remove later in case anything goes wrong with how it's chucked up in the lathe or maybe the turning process. Also, the longer that is, the more intricate you can make your candlestick holder. So if you want to make the candlestick holder taller and do some beads and coves on it, that you need a longer blank to do that. And I have an example of that. I'll show that in a little bit. So these are the simple ones, and we're going to start with these. Basically, they're two pieces. You got a rectangular piece that you make the candlestick out of, and then you have the candlestick holder at the bottom, which you're going to turn, and then you'll carve it at the end. So you don't even have to be that great of a turner. You just want to get a rough form. It's just like a bandsaw blank. You're just getting a rough form. You're still going to take away the material down to the point where you want to on the carving. And the dimensions on these, I'm using a 4-inch square for the candle holder. 2 to 4 inches tall is typically enough. If you go any taller than that, I'll show you another form that I did where you actually then go to a 3-piece candle. So they're 4 inches square, 2 to 4 inches tall, and then the candle itself is 1.5 to 2 inches square by 6 inches tall. And that's plenty of space for the candle, the wax. You can get some movement in there. You can even bend the candle if you want. I don't really go above the 2 inches in the ones that I'm making. I find that to be just a lot of stock removal. So one of the keys here is that you're going to make 2 tenons. One is going to be at 3/4 of an inch and the other one's at 1 inch. And then you're going to make 2 mortises. And on the right-hand side, you see my setup at the drill press. That vise that's sitting there, I got that at Woodcraft on sale. I believe that there's other makers that make something similar, and it has grooves in it to hold a blank. So if you look closely, you can see right in this area that it's designed to hold pen blanks, which this is basically just an oversized pen blank. So it holds that in there. It's holding it straight up and down. And then I secure it to my drill press table. You don't want to try drilling these with the Forstner bit and holding it in your hand. That's a recipe for breaking your thumb. Or just screwing up the piece of wood, which would be the better outcome of those two things. So you're going to drill a matching 1-inch hole, and then you drill a 3/4 inch hole. And the Forstner bits have a point in the middle. So when you drill the 1-inch hole, there'll be a recess that the 3/4 inch hole that you can line it up so that the two holes are parallel to each other. And it doesn't really matter how deep you make them. That's going to depend on the type of candlestick holder that you're making. The further down that you want the wax to drip, the deeper you make the 3/4 inch hole. Okay, stock prep. This is where the center finder comes in handy. I thought I'd point this out for anybody who's new to the lathe. One of the things that you do with the center finder is you go around all 4 corners and you make these lines that you see on the right-hand side. And you'll find that your stock, even though it's square, almost never is completely square. So when you use the center finder, you can sort of approximate where the hole should go. And then that's where you're going to want to drill holes or chuck it up in the lathe, just to make certain that you're close, that you're in the center and you're not turning it off center. So on the bottoms of each of the candle holders, I start by using a 2-inch Forstner bit, and I create a hole that's 3/16 inch of an inch deep. And the reason why I do that is to put it into a chuck. Now, I showed the chuck earlier, and the chuck has a dovetail on it. So that's what this illustration here is for. And this is your wood. So this is actually going to go into here, and it's going to expand into it. And because it has that dovetail, it holds the wood a little bit stronger. Now, not all lathe chucks have dovetails. Mine happens to. So if yours doesn't, you don't want to create your blank this way. If it is a straight chuck, you just do you could just drill it out with a Forstner bit. The dovetail, I think, is a little bit safer. I've had lathes with both types of chucks. The dovetail is definitely safer, holds your material more securely. So that's what I have on this lathe. And the Forstner bit's going to make a hole that's straight up and down. So I'll actually have to take it over to the lathe. And one of the first things that I will do is, and this is a video, so I'm going to run the video. So I'm using a screw chuck here. And you notice that the hole from the Forstner bit is on the right-hand side of the blank. I'm putting this in the skew chuck, and I'm bringing my tool rest up so that I can go ahead and cut that dovetail. I'm also going to remove the tailstock. Had a, oh, I can't think of the name of it, but it's pointy. So you want to remove that so that if something happens, you don't hit it with your elbow. And here I'm using the skew chisel to basically go in and make that dovetail. And then I'm going to remove the blank from the screw chuck. And we're done with the screw chuck. Now, why don't I turn it on the screw chuck? That's basically because if you get a catch, the screw will strip. So these lathe chucks with these jaws are a lot more secure. They're a lot more safe. They're worth the money if you're doing this a lot. So here I'm going to bring the tailstock up and I'm going to tighten it up. And basically this is about as safe as you can get. I'm going to use a spindle gouge to start my shaping. And anytime that you move the tool rest, you want to turn the lathe off. right there, I was just testing for whether or not it was in the round yet. If you put the tool on the top, if it's not round yet, it'll bounce. Now, obviously, be careful when you do that. You don't want to catch it with the edge of the tool. And so here, basically, what I'm doing is I'm emulating a bandsaw. I'm just taking away the wood that I don't need, that I would have to carve otherwise. The difference is that since I'm going for a round form, I could attempt that on a bandsaw, but a round form on a bandsaw is almost never going to be completely round. There are some jigs out there that you can get that can help you. But what you can't do with the bandsaw is you can't make the saucer shape. And you wouldn't be able to do any beads or coves on the pedestal portion of the candle holder if you were going to do a more ornamental candle. There I had a catch. Wasn't too bad, so I just turn it away and I just keep going. I sped up the video, so this entire candlestick holder took me about 10 minutes to turn doing this. So here I'm using this Easy Wood Tools. It's a rough out tool, it's square. And I'm also using just a standard wrench. And the reason for the wrench is I'm using that in lieu of calipers. You can use calipers as well. It's a 1-inch wrench, so that by resting that on the back side, this gouge is basically turning this down, and I'm going to turn it down to that 1 inch. So when the wrench slips on, you know that you're at 1 inch. This was a trick that I picked up somewhere. And I find it's easy because you don't have to set a set of calipers to the right size, which can be difficult to do. A lot of times you go a little too far with the calipers, you don't get far enough. Here I'm just using some sandpaper to dial that in to the final dimension. And I'll clean that up. So that's going to be my outside tenon. And I'm just going to make that match. Then I'm going to go in with the 3/4 inch wrench, and I'm going to do the same thing. So this is the inside tenon. So your wax drips over the outside tenon. And you don't have to be perfect with these. One thing that I would warn you about when you're carving, if you like to use the 50-50 mixture of alcohol and water, if you spray either the candle holder or the candle with it, it will swell. And so everything that you've done here, you may have to, you might have to use some sandpaper or carve it down just a little bit to get them to fit back together. I haven't found that they swell so much that it's a lost cause. So don't be afraid to use the alcohol and water mixture if the wood is hard or it's just something that you typically do. So there I create the saucer shape. I use a spindle gouge for that. And this is pretty much the end of it. Now you have your candlestick holder blank. So, oops. We'll want to go down to the next slide. All right, so that's for the 2-piece candle. And I think I'll just stop there for a minute. Are there any questions about doing that 2-piece candlestick holder?
Hey, Josh, on those, do you ever do the base in a different kind of wood other than basswood?
I haven't, but you could. I mean, I do, when I'm making bases for carvings, walnut and cherry are the two that are asked for the most. And walnut will really make your colors pop on a lot of things.
Yep.
It's not exactly realistic for what a candlestick holder is, but there are wood turners who make candlestick holders and put candles on them. So, I mean, why not? You know, it's art, it's subjective. I mentioned a three-piece candle. So here's a three-piece candle, and I started roughing it out. This is turned on the lathe. So you don't have to do just round forms. This gets chucked into the lathe this way, and when it's spinning like this. So you need to be careful because you have to watch this piece, but you turn from here down, from here up. You're still going to have where I cut it on the bandsaw, and you'll have to carve that. You'll have to remove that stock somehow, but you turn this way, and so you can come in here and do this spindle shape. Now you notice I don't have the pedestal. That's because I turned a separate piece, and this was the one that I used the alcohol and water mixture on. I turned a separate piece and used the mortise and tenon construction. So now I have a different style candlestick holder, which just adds some interest to your overall carving. The candlestick holder, once you do the blank, it's all carved the rest of the way, and then your candle goes up on top. So the sky's the limit with these. I mean, I brainstormed a number of different ways of doing these, and I'm just trying them out now. Here's my attempt at a matchstick. I don't like this one, but it is, as I mentioned earlier, I turned an egg, put a mortise in the bottom, put a tenon on the top of the piece of wood, carved a face in it. So I have a couple other ideas for this, and I just think this one's not quite right. The proportions are off, but I'll figure it out. It's fun to experiment. I mean, it's all part of the design process. So I guess we didn't get any questions, or did we?
We had just a few general comments. You can make a mug on the lathe and carve the handle or the entire outside. You can sharpen one side of the wrench so it becomes an actual cutter for the final perfect sizing of the tenon piece.
Yeah, I think I've heard of people doing that. I do it my way. When you hold the wrench from that direction, the wrench on the top of the wrench is blunt, so it's not likely to catch. If you sharpen it, it would catch. So if you were to sharpen this to cut the tenon, you would want to come in from the other direction, I'm assuming. It's not something I would try, but maybe it's something in the wood turning community. I don't know. Anyway, I've heard about the mugs. I've never tried one. It's on my list of things to try. So I'm going to go back to sharing the slides here, and we'll talk about the single piece one. So the single piece one, on the left-hand side, that's where we start. And you cut it out on the bandsaw just like you do normally. The middle piece has been turned on the lathe. And the one on the right is the one that has been carved and painted. From there, there's no reason why, now that you've designed your carving, there's no reason why you couldn't take the middle piece, get it to a point where you'd have a rough out, and send it off to Heineke or Moore or anywhere else that does rough outs. So this is, as I said earlier, this is a method that I'm using to design new patterns and then not necessarily produce them on a regular basis. Now, if you're in my class in September at Raintree, we will be carving from what is the middle, from the piece in the middle. We'll be going from basically the bandsaw / lathe blank. I won't be making rough outs out of that. So one of the things that you need to think about when you're creating a pattern for something that you're going to chuck up on the lathe is you need to consider how you're going to support it. So you notice on here that I have a center line going down my pattern. And this pattern was done off of, I actually made a clay model for this guy before I carved him. And so I got these patterns from the clay model. I drew a center line down the middle, and this center line's a little bit off if you look at the graph paper, but this is meant to be explanatory. So you would draw a center line down the center, and wherever your pattern is, underneath of this red line here is where the pattern is. You're going to extend it up to make a column of wood so that you can chuck it up between centers on the lathe to be safe. Since this is a 10, 11, 12-inch tall piece, you don't want to just rely on that chuck to keep it in place. Having that tailstock come up and bite into it makes this a much safer operation. So again, when I'm laying these out, the 4-inch stock is not always 4 inches completely square. Sometimes they're a little off. So I will draw my front and side views, as you see on the right-hand side, and then I extend that column out and I see how close it is. So I use the center finder here to find where the center is, and the center is right there where the pointer is. In between all those lines. That's the true center of the piece of wood. This is the center of the column, the square, as drawn from the front and side view. Now, these are off by, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch at the most, so I'm not going to worry about it. If you are off by a lot more, I would redraw either your front or your side pattern to get it closer to the center of the piece of stock. And that just means that your stock will be as balanced as it can be when it goes into the lathe. So here it is, chucked up between centers. I did not use the long nose jaws here. I used the regular jaws. I brought the tail stock up. And there I'm testing to make certain that the tool rest is out of the way. I'm going to move the tool rest. And again, I'm using a spindle gouge. Now, you have to be a little bit more careful when you don't have the long handle jaw, the long nose jaws, because now you're turning closer to the actual lathe chuck. But again, I'm going to get this into round and start shaping it. And it pretty much goes the same way as the candlestick holder. You just now have a big chunk of wood that you have to avoid. So if you're not used to using the lathe, this is not a project that I would suggest that you try until you get some experience with the lathe. I've been turning for probably 12 years. And I don't consider myself to be an expert turner by any stretch of the imagination. I use the lathe to accomplish things a certain way, which is how I came up with this idea. Now, I drew that line on there because you don't want to go higher than that. You start getting into where the candle is. So that line, once it's spinning, reminds me not to take the tools above that line. And I'm using this rough out tool, basically just to hog away material. You notice that even though the wood's all split there and spinning around, I still haven't hit that line. Maybe I hit it a little bit, but so there, I know where the line is now. I'm going to go ahead and clean it up. And then I will come in with shaping the outside with the spindle gouge. Turning tools work kind of like wood carving tools. You notice that I'm riding the bevel. So how your bevel is ground is how the tool will present to the piece of wood. And it's just the same with your wood carving tools. Now, this is very important. When you are setting the tailstock this way, you want to make certain that that large piece of wood is out of the way. But I'm putting that in there and I'm going in with a much smaller spindle gouge to get the saucer shape. And this is sped up 2 times. So I think it took me about 10 minutes again to do this. Now, the first time that I did this, I went really slowly. I really thought about what I was doing. A couple of times I took a step or two back, looked at it, and decided how I was going to approach it. And there I'm just kind of cleaning things up. And then making the saucer a little bit deeper. And there you have it. A one-piece candle blank. So that is the end of the candles. We got any questions about it? No questions. Okay, so again, this is just a technique that I use to make a blank. In the future, I may make rough outs from said blank. I may design other types of pieces using the lathe, or I've also experimented with some other tools in the shop. I did a piece where I actually used, we cut all those tool totes out on a laser. I actually used the laser to create some of the pieces for the scenery. Okay, so we got some questions. Are you chucking in a headstock with the mortise or tenon? So if we go back to in the slides, there was the picture of the, let me share the screen again. This picture here. So this is your mortise inside the blank, and this is your tenon, and it has the dovetail on it. So let me grab the piece. And it doesn't matter if you're using the large piece or the small piece when you use this. this hole was done with the Forstner bit, and then I went in with the skew gouge and I made that dovetail, and then it goes on to here, and I'll open up the jaws to the chuck, and it'll hold it. So I guess I didn't show that. Well, I did in the first video, but you open up the jaws with an Allen wrench, and now this is on there. Do I vary the candle design with the arms? I have not yet, but I have ideas for it. So that is something that I will be doing in the future. For the class that I'll be teaching, though, it'll be this one because this is the one that I'm used to carving. Have I experimented with multi-axis turning as an option to create additional movement? Yes, I have. I haven't gotten very far with it because I'm new to it. But I've made ovals with the lathe, and it's different. So the individual that's asking about multi-axis turning, when you chuck things between centers, you're trying to chuck them up so that they're straight. So you're holding it like this. When you do multi-axis, you actually chuck it like that. And there's also specialty equipment if you don't want to do it this way. So there are things called drive spurs. And then you saw what's on my tailstock. You use a drive spur and then that same tailstock attachment. And then as it's turning, sometimes you're turning air and sometimes you're turning wood. And so then you get more of an elliptical shape. But I've experimented with it, but I don't have anything that would be caricature related. I think I was I also do whimsical houses. So I think I was trying to figure out how to do like a tower that would be more elliptical. I don't know. It's been a few years since I actually experimented with it. But if you've been turning for a while, multi-axis turning is definitely an interesting thing to try. So any other questions?
Josh, do you have any of the other candlesticks with you that you've done from those same patterns that you can show?
I think I showed an example of all of them. I'm working on some new ones so that I have some more go-bys for the class. So at this point, if there's no other questions, do I touch up the saucer base surface so it's less? Yes. With the saucers, this first one that I made, it's smooth. And you got a carving in it. So it is, the texture difference between the two is, it doesn't feel right. So I'll take the saucer, and then this one is, I'll go around it with a flat gouge on the outside, and then on the inside I'll go in with like a number 9 or a number 8, even a 7 will do, and I will get all of this, and I'll carve all of this to give it the same sort of texture that the candle has. And then when you paint it, I don't like the paint job on this, but it's kind of interesting because I painted it 2 colors. So there's a base coat on here, and I don't know how well you can see this in the camera, but I did a base coat in a light color, and then I came back with more of a silver gray color. And then I used a Dremel tool with some Scotch-Brite in it. And I went around, and what it does is it removes the top layer of paint from your facets from the carving. And then you get sort of this neat texture with one color paint showing through the other. in person, this looks kind of like a tarnished candlestick. The issue that I have with the painting is the silver gray is a little too metallic as far as the paint goes when you mix it with the acrylics. So this has got like a metallic shiny, and then but the acrylics are a matte color, so it's a little off-putting. But I'm going to experiment a little bit more with the coloring as well. So Blake mentioned gathering of wood carvers. So I am teaching at Rain Tree Wood Carvers. We're doing the candlesticks. Then I'm teaching at the Gathering of Wood Carvers along with some really great carvers and wood burning artists. And I was informed the other day that anybody who signs up by July 31st will be enrolled to win a $100 gift card contingent upon you, of course, taking the class. So that's in Yorkville, Illinois. The 11th through the 13th is the Gathering of Wood Carvers, and it's Vic Hood, Dylan Goodson, Roger Stegall, myself, and Mary McDonough. And I don't know if Rain Tree has opened up the class. It's right, my class will be right before their show. At some point, they're opening it up to member or to people outside of the club. I don't know if they've done that yet, but if you're interested in trying the candlestick, look up Rain Tree Wood Carvers and see if you can get into the class. And that's in Indiana.
Hey, Josh, can you talk a little bit for those people who weren't on the last meeting that you were on? Talk a little bit about Studios and what you all have to offer through that business.
Yeah, so Windy Cape Studios is a business that my wife and I started. I make bases and plaques for wood carvers. So bases, pedestals, plaques. We have a website that you can go to and you can see the, let me share my screen again. You can go and see our generic offerings. So there's the website. We do these made to order. And we also do custom ones. So I actually have a custom one here. So for caricature carvers that are interested, this was a custom one for a caricature carver. They wanted an island, which is what this shape is. Some people call them kidney shape. But they wanted it inlaid with basswood. So I actually recessed it, inlaid it with basswood, and then you can mount your caricatures, but you can obviously carve the scenery and mount your caricatures and anything else that you want. That was a custom order. We do a lot of business with wildlife carvers. So we offer pedestals, which are useful not just for the wildlife carvers. Caricature carvers can use those for busts as well. And in addition to all of that, I travel and teach both caricature and whimsical house out of bark. And we also make the tool totes, which Dave, if you switch over to the phone. So the tool totes, we got one that holds 49 tools and one that holds over 20. They're made to fit into buckets. And Blake was asking me earlier about where you find the buckets. So these buckets are food grade buckets at Lowe's. Not all buckets are made the same. So what ends up happening is I kind of had to just design the diameter of these to fit a bucket that everyone could get. So these are a little bit more expensive than say going to Lowe's or Home Depot and buying a bucket. But you're only going to buy it once. And these are designed, you can have these on your carving bench at home. They're a carousel. You put it in the bucket, put the lid on, and go to your wood carving meet. You're going to your club, you're going to a roundup or a show. The larger one also affords you a little bit of extra room where you can fit a carving in, put your lid on. I use Plano. Now, I'm not endorsed by Plano or anything, but I use this Plano bucket topper, and that allows me to store my knives. So that gives you extra storage. We cut these out on a laser, so basically we keep a few in stock. But if we're out of stock, you know, we just go and cut them and assemble them and send them to you already assembled. The larger one also has a spot for CA glue. The smaller one does not. The larger one will hold full-size tools down to regular tools. And there's one other thing that we've done that is new. And I'm gonna pull out this other tote to demonstrate it. We've gotten some feedback where some people have hand tools that I did not have on hand when I designed this. So we make these spacers, and there's two different sizes. If you have a tool that wobbles around, we make these spacers, and they come with a 3M adhesive on the back. There's a little film that you pull off, and then the adhesive will be there. You stick it down to
We didn't have audio, and now we have audio but no video.
Okay, so I was trying to demonstrate the spacers that we've introduced to help with
There you are.
tools that don't fit, because it's very difficult to make a truly generic tool holder. So we make two different size spacers. So this was you saw the video, but you didn't hear me explaining it. They have a 3M adhesive on the back. The 3M adhesive is fairly permanent when you put it down. There's a little film that you pull off. And then when you put it on here and put your tool down in, it should keep your tool from wobbling. And it also provides a little bit of height if you have a tool where the shank is too long. So if the shank is causing the tool to wobble up here, this will actually bring the tool up so that it is more secure. So sorry about the technical difficulty.
And they can order those directly from your website?
They can, yes. Both of the tool totes are up there as well as the spacers. And for whoever gets the tool tote today, if you need spacers, just let me know that you were the winner today, and I'll send you spacers for free if you need them.
Nice. And I'll let you all know, we were talking to Josh in our pre-meeting a couple of days ago, and he's going to come back on later. I don't know if it'll be later this year or early next year, but we have a small tool tote as well that they've donated, and we're going to auction that one during that meeting. Hopefully he'll come back and do whimsical houses or something like that for us. So we look forward to that. And again, I just want to let everybody know that that we have that smaller tool tote as well. So any other questions from the group, from the audience? Well, Joshua, I just want to say thank you for coming on. You and Lori both. Thank you all for being supporters of what we do here. And, you know, I'm always excited to have you on. They came through Bristol, where I live, on their way to one of the meetings, and stopped off here. And we had dinner together. It was a great time. And I always look forward to seeing you all. So hopefully we can do that again in the near future. Again, check out Windy Cape Studios. If you didn't win the auction today, if you're not bidding on that and you want to get a tote, reach out to them, get one of those. Check out their website, see the pedestals and stuff they have available, and talk to them about doing a base for you. I'm going to have them do a customized base for me for one of the carvings that I'm taking to Colorado Springs. And you know, if you have something that's bigger than normal and you can't find the wood or don't have the machines or tools to be able to cut out that base, reach out to Joshua and Lori and let them take care of that for you. They'll get it turned around to you very quick, and you'll be happy with what they provide to you. Josh, if they're interested in buying a carving from you, is there a place they can do that, or do you do custom orders, things like that?
Carvings, I take commissions. I don't have a huge amount of time to do them because we both have day jobs as well as Windy Cape Studios, but I do take commissions, and we do sell at the shows. If you want to try the single piece blank that makes this guy here. So if you are looking for, what did I do with the blank? That's not the blank. Oh, I put it in the way. Because I'm an idiot. There, I put that on out there for the world to hear. If you want the blank, actually, that's not the one that's turned. There I go, screwing up again. If you want one of these blanks, it's possible that I may create some if there's interest in them, or I may create a rough out, but I would need to know what kind of interest in the community there is. So if you could email us, it's windycapestudios@gmail.com if you're interested in one. Right now I'm set up to make enough of these for the class that I'm going to be teaching. So it'd probably be, if I get enough interest, it would be a couple of months because I'd have to order wood. But I could potentially produce either a rough out or just send this bandsaw / lathe blank to people. I don't have an idea what the cost is. I'd like to see what kind of interest there is first. As far as these other ones that are just the, boy, I've lost everything today. As far as these blanks, if there's interest, I can send people the saucers. This is just a piece that you should be able to produce yourself. So again, email me and let me know what kind of interest there is in that.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like there's any other questions. So again, Joshua, I want to say thank you for coming on, sharing with us. I know that there's going to be a lot of candlestick holders out there for people to see in the near future on Facebook. So I look forward to seeing what everybody creates based off what they've learned from you today. I'll go ahead and call the auction. It looks like if I'm looking through the comments, Whittle Billy is the winner. If you will stay on here at the end of the meeting, we'll gather your information, get payment from you. I want to say again, thank you, Joshua, for donating the tool tote. Special thanks to Helvey Knives for donating the Floyd Radigan autographed Helvey knife. Again, keep Holly and Rich in your prayers. Holly's not finished with her cancer treatment yet. She's got some tests and things coming up. They're not making a lot of new knives as far as new orders. They're still working to fill old orders that they've taken in the past through their website. So it's going to be limited as far as what knives you'll be able to get from Helvey. But I do want to say a special thanks to them for providing the knife that we're auctioning off today. I want to remind you all that we will be back on August the 10th with Mike Blomquist. After that, the next time that we'll meet is the beginning of September, and we hope to go back into the weekly meetings in September. So we'll look forward to that. I'll be posting the schedule out on social media so everybody can see that as we get new presenter lined up. If anybody in this group wants to present, please reach out to me, let me know, and I'll get you on the schedule. And just want to say thanks to you all for joining us today. This has been the International Association of Woodcarvers, and we will see you all on August the 10th. Thank you all.
Just making sure that you introduce yourselves and then making sure that we, just say welcome to the International Association of Woodcarvers when you get finished on it.
We'll need to spotlight him.
Yep. Let's get that spotlight too.
Look.
Now,
The bloopers.
I'm gonna say again. I'm gonna actually suggest let's go ahead and flip the aspect ratio to landscape because
There we go.
that'll be good. Yeah, that'll fit on the YouTube better. So, and you may have to speak up here. I don't know. Let's go ahead and do a test and see.
Hi, I'm Josh Walters from Windy Cape Studios, welcoming you to the International Association of Woodcarvers.
That
Woohoo!
volume
Just
sounds
like that.
Now, I guess we'll record it now that you got the volume right. No,
Yeah, right.
no, we got it
He's
good.
recording.
If you want to do another take, we can do another take. If not, we're good. So it's up to you, man.
Oh, we can do another one.
Let's do another one then.
You ready?
Whenever you are.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's great. Good job. Let's see. Man, they changed some of the buttons here. And like the leave button is right where the button used to be for the recording. Now where'd the recording?
Hey, Dave, do not leave.